and welcome to my channel. My name is Odolena and today is Sunday, time for another book review. Today I'm reviewing a book which probably you have heard of. It's Machiavelli, The Prince. One of these books that people love to hate, and I kind of seem to be drawn to this type of books. So today I want to discuss about what is so extraordinary about this book, why people hate it, and what you can take out of it as an open-minded and happy reader. First thing when you hear a prince is you imagine like the Disney type of prince, but here this book is something completely different. The prince can be any governor, coming from the time of the Florentine Republic, where a prince could be anybody. Could be a general who seized with power, who could be an elected official, could be a nobleman, could be a king, could be a pope. What is the story behind it? Nicolo Machiavelli was a Florentine diplomat, so he worked for the Florentine Republic, the city of Florence, which was a republic at that time. And for about 10 years he was proven himself as a very skillful diplomat. He was representing Florence at the highest level in diplomatic relations with other countries, with other republic states, the Pope, you name it, everybody in the history. He knew very well history, he knew very well politics, he was very skillful. However, about 10 years after he started his post, the Medici, this is the famous family which has always been ruling one way or another in Florence, came back to power. So Florence was no longer a republic and he was forced in exile. In his attempts for about 10 years to come back to power by pleading to the Medici, he actually created this book, and this is addressed to Lorenzo de Medici, one of the ancestors of Lorenzo the Magnificent, who was in power that day. And it's something like a CV of a government official who wants to really desperately get back to the cabinet, getting all the knowledge that he has. He's demonstrating all the skillfulness and the wisdom he had gathered from his experience. And this was a present for Lorenzo. Unfortunately, the application wasn't successful and Nicolo Machiavelli actually died before this book became published. The reason why this book is so hated is because it's just so honest. Before the prince, the literature which a monarch or a prince or any kind of ruler was supposed to read was, of course, dominated by religious dogma. It was history through the prism of Christianity. And in this book, Machiavelli has the attitude, you know how this works, I know how this works, let me just put it in writing and we just stop pretending about that it is anything different than a game. And really this is about the game of politics, the game of seizing power and retaining power. So this is kind of like a manual for someone who is in the position of a ruler, on how to make sure that he stays in this position and doesn't end up like so many others ended, being betrayed, being killed by their followers, or just being desperately hated by everybody. The beginning of the book, he discusses the different types of states which existed during his time and kind of exist until today if you look it through another prism. And depending on the order of the state, there are different levels of seizing it and of sustaining your power as a ruler there. So there are the states which have always been having a strong leader. There will be a prince, maybe like a royal family with a bloodline. So these are notoriously hard to crack. These are the big, great empires of the world, the big countries where they have generations of strong leaders. So people are used to this type of power, so people don't question it anymore. They don't want to live in freedom or republic. They don't even understand what is this. This type of kingdoms, he said, are notoriously difficult to conquer. But once you get it, once you kill off the bloodline, then you are safe. Just because people are so conditioned, so well conditioned to this type of hierarchical state and to the fact that there should be one person ruling them all, that they will not even question your power. And you can think of an example is Russia in the history. Let's say before the revolution, it was being run generations and generations by a bloodline of very, very strong autocratic tsars. What the Russian Revolution did, they killed off the family of the Tsar, and it was not inherited by some kind of democracy or a republican type of country. It was inherited by strong dictators. Dictatorship continued throughout the whole 20th century and until nowadays, where you can see the figure of Putin in Russia. Is kind of a central governor. It seems that this type of countries, they don't know how to handle freedom, democratic. It makes people tense. So these countries are difficult to take over but easy to sustain. Then comes the problem with the so-called free countries or the republics. During the time of Machiavelli, there were a lot of cities in Italy which were republics. And Italy remembered the time of Rome. Rome started as a republic. So there were a lot of these free states which did not want to be ruled by one conqueror. And because they were very small and weak, it would be easy to take them over. However, he says that because people are conditioned and they remember generations away, they remember what it means to be free, what it means to have no ruler, that it's actually you are safer and you're stronger when you don't have one central figure operating your state. These countries are very difficult to sustain. Even though oppressors can seize them easily and take them over for some time, because people are liberated in their mind, it's very difficult to sustain their power. Even though Machiavelli seems very brutal and he has this famous phrase that the goal justifies your means and kind of anything goes in order for you to obtain your goal, he does not justify unnecessary violence, and he actually hates and consults in his book The Prince that they should not allow any kind of meaningless violence and cruelty amongst people. Actually, he gives a lot of examples when this kind of extra cruel, like people who really seized their power just because everybody was really scared of them, they did not last long. They were often betrayed, there were rebellions against them, and they were easy to overpower because anybody could come and say, people, look, you hate this guy, I'm going to help you to get rid of it if you make me a king. So he puts a lot of emphasis on the fact that violence should be used only as an immediate strike when you're dealing with this kind of country where you have to seize power quickly, and it should not be sustained. He emphasizes on the fact that actually a good prince will allow people to continue their trades, to continue agriculture, and most importantly, they should not be afraid to accumulate wealth because of taxes or because they believe that he will seize it from them. Because if you have this kind of mentality where people don't want to accumulate any wealth while they're afraid of being successful, then you end up with a poor state, with people who are frightened, or essentially there will be a rebellion against you. According to Machiavelli, there is nothing more important than getting respect, and actual and very true respect, not respect by flatterers, but just being respected as a person. And he talks a little bit how to achieve the effect of respect. That's, I think, why people hate this book so much, is that he talks a lot about things on how to make yourself look respectful, how to make yourself look loved and worthy of love without actually doing the work. What we require is moral and normal to do this. Like, he kind of gives you the shortcut on how to make yourself believably respectful and believably lovable by the majority of people. This book has been loved by people of power. Some famous examples of people who took a lot of inspiration from it is Benito Mussolini, who wrote his dissertation on Machiavelli, also Adolf Hitler. There is strong influence on Nazism from Machiavellian theory. Then you have people like Margaret Tatcher, like Tony Blair, like big generals from the American and the UK army, which absolutely believe that this is the guide to actually running correctly organization, to being into a position of power. And you might argue, and it's become a synonym, even it has become an adjective, being Machiavellian. There is a test actually you can take whether to find out how Machiavellian you are. And in modern sense, Machiavellian means that you are ready to do things that the rest of us will consider immoral in order for you to achieve what you want. But this book is not about that. This book is to be able to rule a country in a peaceful, prosperous way, regardless whether it takes being at some points cruel, at some points maybe not being that just. But it kind of gives the tips to the ruler on how to appear good in the eyes of the majority and how to sustain what has taken him to the power. If it was the nobility that took him to power, there is one formula. If it was the people, there is another formula. If it was the army, there is another formula. But in any case, he says that the love of people, of the majority of the citizen, is absolutely crucial for a successful ruler and for a successful prince. No matter how fortified and how protected they are in their fortresses and armies, if they are not loved by the people, they are always in danger, because there could be always the next one who can come and say, let me set you free from this person that you hate. Finally, what is my personal view and opinion of Machiavelli? Do you think that I support him? I'm against him? I think it's awful? I think it is what it is. It is very, very close to what we see in reality. It seems truthful. I like this book just because it feels so honest. Almost 500 years later, it feels like he's talking about nowadays. It helps you understand about the world, about politics, and again, to have, let's say, a more sober view of the world, and unfortunately a bit less idealistic, but I would say a little bit healthier. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Watch my other videos on Robert Greene books, 48 Laws of Power and Mastery. They are very related to Machiavelli. He quotes Machiavelli a lot of times. If you like this video, like it. If you want to share it, share it. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back with other video next week.